you're an Igbo person, I want you to watch this very video. Let's watch it and get some reasonable substance from it, whereas we are going to digest the content in the video at the end of it. So pay attention and watch this video.
This video is to my Igbo brothers from the southeast. Watch this video with open mindset, with open brain. If they don't want to tell you this hard truth, I will tell you. Do you know that in a table when they take decision about Nigeria, there is no representative from the southeast? Did you know that if they want to do something, if they want to talk about Nigeria matters and how to move Nigeria forward or move Nigeria backward, nobody rated southeast? Politically, southeast is becoming irrelevant. And 2027 is going to prove everything all, whether they will remain forever for another 15 years or they will become relevant gradually. You understand? South is more rated politically than southeast, and it's very bad for you. Yes, your primary objective was agitation. You want to get Biafra. Now that agitation is failed because the person leading that agitation is not more there. You understand? It's not more there. What next is to become president, vice president, or recognizable in Nigeria politics. The people of southeast, I understand your pain. You people are the third most populated tribe in Nigeria after Hausa, Fulani, Yoruba. Then the next is Igbo. So by nature, it's supposed to be, if you are not the president, you should be the vice president. If you are not the vice president, you should be senate president. But the question is that, when was the last time somebody from the southeast hold a tangible position at the federal level? When? It was during Obasanjo. That is when all the four senate presidents are from the southeast. That is the last time. South produced president and vice president. Southwest produced president, two president and vice president. North Center produced two senate presidents, Bukola Saraki and Senator David Mark. They still produce Speaker House of Reps. Now Northwest produced two presidents, Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, Baba Buhari, and they also produced vice president Namadi Sambo from Kaduna State. Then you talk about Northeast. Northeast produced senate president Mohammed Lawal, and they also produced vice president in Atiku Abubakar. What was Southeast produced? Now in APC administration, the only position Southeast, the third highest populated tribe in Nigeria, is Deputy Speaker House of Reps. Do you know how insulting that was? Deputy Speaker House of Reps for a tribe like Igbo. So listen, 2027 is going to decide whether you people are ready or not. And anything by a venture, 2027 election, it happened, and you people does not play by the card of anybody that is going to form the next government. They will abandon you people totally. The reason is very simple. Now let me break this down for you if you don't know. The last three presidential election, the president won the presidential election without winning from southeast. 2050 Buhari won it without southeast. 2019 Buhari won it without southeast. 2023 Tinubu won it without southeast. Now do you know that people can sit comfortably, contest in an election and don't bother about southeast because they know they have done it 3 times without the people? And 2027, if the next president win the election without southeast, it shows that you people, you are totally lost. You are totally lost. You understand? Politics is about the numbers. It is about the numbers. You people are many, but you are scattered. You are not in your region. So if you want to do measurement, they will measure which region. You get the point now? So go back to your drawing board and learn.
Now, void of emotion, void of bias, void of sentiment, I am going to be analyzing this very particular video, and I want you to pay attention very, very carefully. Now, let me just be sincere. One of the greatest misconceptions, in Nigerian politics is the belief that political dominance is automatically translated into development and prosperity. History has repeatedly shown that this is not always the case. The Southeast presents a unique example. I mean, despite the decades of political marginalization, the average Igbo man has continued to, distinguish himself through resilience, enterprise, education, innovation, self-development, self-reliance, rather than waiting endlessly for any government. Many Igbos have built businesses, industries, careers in different fields of human endeavor and global reputations through hard work and determination. Now, let me be blunt. Why there are some kind of elements of truth in what this very Abuki have just said, but then in examining the issue in broader perspectives, that comes with this very question. And my question is, what has become of Nigeria since an Igbo man was obviously removed from the cycle of politicking I mean, according to him, cycle of people who make decisions for Nigeria. So this is me asking him, what has become of Nigeria ever since then? Because in that very table, according to him, now where then they discuss the issue that concerns Nigeria, how to move Nigeria forward and backward. So my question to him is, what has become the condition of the country ever since the Igbo man have not actually heeded any of those things that he think that they are people who make decisions for the country? That is the first. My second question is, he believes that the Northerners have been the decider, they're always in the table, in the same table. So my second question relies on that, and that is, what is the current state of the northern Nigeria, despite that the Northerners have actually occupied that presidency, either they are president or vice president, despite the fact that they have actually dominated the parliamentary forces, headed them, they've headed DSS, they've dominated DSS, EFCC, they've dominated military, they've actually headed the police and several other key national institutions for decades. So what is the state of the northern Nigeria? Now, the truth of the matter is that if political dominance alone guarantees prosperity, why does the region still, contend with some of the world's highest number of out-of-school children? You talk about the Almajiris, you talk about the widespread multidimensional poverty, you talk about the banditry, insurgency. It has always been the North, and other social economical challenges. So why has there been so much challenge in those areas of life, in those areas of social life? Let me tell you the truth about what you should know, and whatever that is haunting the Southeasterners, the Igbo people politically today in Nigeria project. Let me be blunt, and I'm going to be telling you the honest truth. Remember what happened, what transpired before the war? That was Igbo pogrom. And of course, that very incident led to Ojukwu saying, no, we can't continue this way. I can't continue with that. Then there was an Aburi Accord, which, of course, after the negotiation, after the agreement that the Yakubu Gowon was actually supposed to, be like, yes, this is the way forward, at least to make the declaration of what transpired in Aburi Accord. But then he did not uphold that. That very incident of Aburi Accord was truncated by General Gowon. And of course, that led to Ojukwu declaring the Federal Republic of Biafra. So it is very, very much safe to say that the Southeast political reality cannot be discussed without, acknowledging the long-lasting consequences of that very Nigerian Civil War. You can't isolate that very well, because that is the origin of the problem of the Igbos. So that I can tell you. So the war fundamentally altered the political trajectory of the Igbo people. They many believe that the scars of that very conflict have never fully, or let's say at least, been healed at any extent, because the promises of the 3R, the reconstruction, the rehabilitation, and the reconciliation never truly happened. That was declaration of 3R, but the reflection never truly happened in Nigeria. As though the Igbos, of course, lost everything in that very war. They lost everything, and today they are still, trying to sit up for themselves in many areas of human endeavors. And of course, that 3R we are actually supposed to, or should I say, intended to restore confidence and of course national unity. But today, you can't have a glimpse of reflection of that of the 3Rs. You can't feel it anywhere in Igbo land. The loss of lives, the destruction of infrastructures, individual properties, their money being seized, everything. Because of course, that was when, I think, to actually cripple their own, whatever Nigeria funds they were holding at that time, the Yakubu Gowon in 1968 actually redesigned the currency. And that should be the Nigerian British pound. So there was some kind of amendment in order to wage economic war against the Igbos. So that is to tell you that the political distrust created by the war to shape the relationship between the Southeast and the Nigerian state. As a result, today, many Igbos gradually shifted their focus away from political patronage and concentrated more on commerce, education, technology, manufacturing, traveling to seek for greener pastures. They are actually scattered everywhere in the world. And of course, in some other areas of professional excellence. And today, they've also made some kind of remarkable contributions and even other countless fields of human life. This is not because the government handed them any opportunity. They did this independently, individually, because after that very war, they cultivated a culture, what I call a culture of resilience and self-belief. And it is actually saving them today. Everywhere is scattered in Nigeria, people are not seeing food. You may not be seeing all of those things in Igbo land. That is one of the good things that very well actually contributed in average Igbo man's life. If a region has controlled major political institution for decades and yet struggles with widespread poverty, insecurity, unemployment, and millions of their children out of classroom, then political power alone cannot be estimated as per ultimate measure of progress. It is not possible. So in my response to this particular guy, whatever you see today happening politically about the Igbos is not an argument about political inclusion. It is not. Even though every region in Nigeria deserves a fair treatment, equal representation, and genuine sense of belonging. I mean, the Southeast equally deserve the full entitlement, the full participation in the governance of this very country. But then, when you look at it, the reality in politics and every other pattern of human life in Nigeria, you will see that the resilience have actually paid so much to the advantage of the Igbos. They are now sustainable in every economy of Nigeria, whatever it looks like. They don't actually get shattered easily about whatever that is going on in Nigeria, just like the present economy of the country. You will see less beggars in Igbo land. You will see less people that do not know what to do to earn money. You see less people that do not know where the next meal will come from. All of these are the experience, the reality every single Nigerian is facing today. But they are less in Igbo land, holistically. So you can see that it is part of the reason why an average Igbo man can thrive. Many Igbos do not really depend on what the government have to offer before they can foster the need for them to have a very beautiful life. I mean, before him talking about government remembering him anywhere, he might already put one or two things together on how to survive. Before he pushes for government remembrance, he himself, wherever he is, would be like, yes, let me remember myself first. And how do you do that? They go through many areas of human endeavor to succeed, to get things doing, and to get them done. Long before any sort of political appointment, an average Igbo man have already created opportunities for himself. That is what I see as the enduring spirit of an average Igbo man in Nigeria. Not waiting to be empowered, but actually empowering himself. How far you're going is not relevant. It is how good, how well you've gone. That is what matters. The results matters. So holistically, the Civil War brought so much political disadvantage, to the Igbos. But then, as the people that have actually, paved the way for themselves in many ways, it is very safe to say that the Igbos are not losing, and that is what counts. The result counts, not how you are actually, doing it. The results is only what that counts. Of course, the truth remains that the Igbos are politically marginalized. That is the one of the contents in this very video that the young man made. But looking at it, are Igbos marginalized? Because Igbos are doing well with or without government. And to me, I don't see that to be a marginalization. We might be by reality marginalized, but deep down in whatever we do, however we pave way for ourselves, we are not marginalized. We are not marginalized. We are getting things done, and how we are doing it, we don't even know. Who would actually believe that after the loss of properties and everything during the war, that ordinary 20 pounds, could actually sustain them, and they are doing businesses, doing enormously well in various parts of the world. So, what do you think about this very analysis? Drop your thought in the comment section. I'll be out there to read, to know your opinion about the political life of the Igbo people in Nigeria. So what do you think? Of course, do me well to share this video. It has to go viral for other people to see, to understand the politics and Igbos in the Nigerian project. So thank you for your time, and thank you for watching.